Some very troubling stories from the educational front. So while on the good side, the government has set up a committee to review education, in the past couple of days, there's been reports of lawlessness on our campuses. So the Accra Academy student who was shown using a cutlass to flog colleagues. I mean, the kind of horrendous cruelty that happens in secondary schools. And the growing lawlessness, we have reports of a number of students just fighting in secondary schools. What's going on? How do we salvage public secondary education? Has the boarding house outlived its usefulness? Because a lot of the troubles we see in these secondary schools are happening in boarding houses. Remember the video of the... No.
Yeah.
Well, at least their account is boarding.
They said the students were day students.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I didn't know.
They were day students. And the cutlass they used to was not from campus. The students brought it to the campus.
How?
That's what the school, the management said.
When I went to Form 1, we were supposed to take cutlass. I don't know if they still do that. And our cutlasses was meant for weeding.
Yeah. And so the clashes that are happening are not just it's inter school.
Which classes?
No, so we've had a lot of these in the past 2 years. So recently we had Accra High Kimbu. That was last week.
Accra High versus Kimbu.
Yes, in the street they did their thing.
Are you serious? They were fighting.
Yes. We've had ATTC and Kimbu.
Yeah.
Again.
Is this intercore or just normal fight?
Yeah, certified.
No, is this not around sports?
We've had
or the fighting is the sport.
We had a very, very bad one that ended up at the Dasman police station. Margaret Mary versus New Century.
Sorry, are you saying like they meet at a program and then it ends up in a fight, or they go and meet to fight?
All kinds of things. Then on Thursday, this was last week, I'm thinking, yes, according to this report, KTI, Kumasi Technical Institute, and Kumasi Anglican Senior High School, they are in the same area, CAS.
What did they do?
They also went to fight.
Wow. What's going on? Can you give me the details of that one?
Okay, so on page 2 of the new publisher reports that students of Kumasi Technical Institute and Kumasi Anglican Senior High School in the Ashanti region were involved in a violent clash which resulted in vandalism on both campuses. According to reports, during the violent exchange, students set car tires ablaze and hurled stones and other objects. The rampaging students damaged 4 private vehicles on the CAS campus, destroyed the school gate, and vandalized the billboard and notice board at KTI. Gabriel Kingsford Osei, principal of KTI, accused CAS students of initiating the attack on Thursday night. According to him, they stormed KTI armed with stones and machetes, targeting their school billboard. Quote, I quickly directed my students to the dormitories to prevent chaos and went to speak with the CAS students, but they refused to listen. Among them was a security officer armed with a catapult, leading them in the destruction.
Catapult.
He further claimed that even after engaging CAS authorities to resolve the situation, the students continued throwing stones, prompting retaliation from KTI students. However, a tutor at CAS, Reverend Father Kenneth Collins Owusu, suggested the clash be abstained from tensions at the ongoing inter-school athletics competition in Kumasi. The slightest argument between CAS and KTI students often escalates into these confrontations. Whenever one group feels provoked, they mobilize their colleagues for retaliation.
So this even looks like day students?
No, but KTI, last I checked, was a day facility.
Because
I'm
now being told that a lot of these classes that we are reporting, so here's one. Accra High and Kimbu SHS students
clash. That's the one I was telling you
about. This was 28 January. Now, a viral video circulating on social media has cast a troubling spotlight on Ghana's educational system, drawing widespread concern over rising student violence. The video, originally shared by GH1 on Twitter, shows a chaotic confrontation between students from Accra High School and Kimbu Senior High School, both of which are very close to us here.
Yeah.
In the footage, students from Accra High are seen aggressively pursuing their Kimbu counterparts, armed with makeshift weapons, while onlookers shout in the background. The Kimbu students appear to retreat, seemingly overwhelmed by the attack. The video provides no context about what triggered the clash or whether there were any injuries reported. Incidents like this are becoming alarmingly common in Ghanaian schools. What were once healthy rivalries expressed through sport or academic competitions now frequently escalate into acts of aggression. For many observers, this incident highlights a growing breakdown of discipline and the failure of the current system to equip students with conflict resolution skills, and rising concerns about the state of values and leadership in the nation's educational institutions. So, Godfred, if a secondary school with 3,500 students has just one career counselor, if a student with 2,800 boarders has only 30 teachers on campus, You get it? Why? And these students are exposed to, and what do you call it? These students now mean they can watch television, they have their phones, so they are exposed to so many things, and you're keeping them in the school for a very short time. So maybe we need to expand the scope of the Education Review Committee's work to include dealing with violence in our secondary schools.
Yes, because it looks like, and this, we've had quite a bit. I was just trying to do a quick search for you. So listen to this. So 6 days ago, Accra High and Kimbu Senior High School students clash. We've had KTI versus CAS. That was last week.
As seen in Suta SHS student class leaves 5 injured.
Then we have in the Eastern region Osino Presby Senior High Tech students. There was a clash there too. Students clash at Bekwai SDA Senior High School. That one led to
and
the
all
police
of this is within
involved.
the past 12 months.
Then we had the fight, the very tragic story at Caleb's old school.
O'Reilly too.
Yeah, where one Form 3 students was stabbed by another. Then we had in Nkranza Technical Institute and in Nkranza Senior High. They also had a clash. This is just last year.
I'm surprised.
Yes, this is just last year.
Kotek SDA SHS classes 2 injured, 4 arrested.
And then this was the really, really bad one.
Which one?
Christian Methodist and English Shaman from Senior High School. It was bad.
How long ago was that?
This was last year in March. It was very, very, very
Christian
bad.
Methodist
and English Shaman from Senior High School.
Is it the Cremeto we know?
Yes, but it was crazy. The things those kids did that day was mad.
No, let's take this one by one. So you've mentioned the Asin in Suta SHS class leaves 5 students injured. This story says the brawl, a violent class at Asin in Suta Greek Senior High School has left 5 students injured. And this story is 2024 August.
Okay.
All right. It says the brawl at the school in the central region occurred between Form 2 and Form 3 students. According to the assemblyman for Asin in Suta Bepo Koko electoral area, Basiru Kwame Amankra, the conflict began when a Form 3 student was caught in a sexual encounter with a Form 1 student on campus. The senior student recently reacted by slapping a Form 2 student who happened to witness the incident. This led to an attack by the Form 2 students on the Form 3 students 3 days later.
Aye.
It resulted in a clash on campus and subsequently led to students using clubs and knives on each other.
Wow.
The relationship was between a Form 3 and a Form 1 student. The Form 2 student who saw the two almost in the act of having sexual intercourse approached them, infuriating the Form 3 student who slapped the Form 2 student. The Form 2 student later retaliated and it turned into a free-for-all fight where 5 students were hospitalized while several other students sustained minor injuries. The police later intervened to restore order. The assistant master in charge of administration also sustained injuries. So this is August last year, overshadowed by election. 2 SHS students feared death after violent clash during SRC week celebration.
Yes, that's the Creamer to English Shaman from one.
2 students have been reported dead in a clash involving students of English Manfro Senior High School and Christian Methodist SHS during an SRC week celebration. The unfortunate incident happened at Block Factory on the Accra Kaswa Highway in the Greater Accra region. It is not immediately known what triggered the clash. However, reports suggest the fight started last week, Friday, and authorities brought the situation under control, but it was renewed on Tuesday. An interview with Adom News, an eyewitness Akwesi Usu narrates that 3 cars were destroyed. So this is the main road. During the class on Friday. Also says some students of Christian Methodist SHS went on rampage, attacking any NASEC student they came across. In a reprisal attack, NASEC students also stormed the campus of Christian Methodist to unleash mayhem.
They hired a bus.
Wow.
Serious?
Yeah, they hired a bus.
Go for it. The story about Kimbu Senior High School and ATTC, does it have, was a student injured? Was someone dead?
Not in the report I have, but there
So
was a
what
clash.
I'm seeing says that it led to the death of a student. So this happened, it was reported on 29th of January. Tragedy strikes students killed in clash between Kimbu Senior High and ATTC.
So that's different from the Kimbu versus Accra High.
Yes, this is 29th, Kimbu and ATTC. So it says a tragic incident has occurred in Ghana, culminating in the death of a student. Kimbu Senior High School pupils clashed with the Accra Technical Training Center ATTC students, killing one. According to reports, the student was slashed in the face with a machete during the fight. The event has shocked the community, with many expressing concern and sadness over the tragic loss of life. The exact
So this is just last week.
yeah. The exact cause of the confrontation remains unknown. However, it is thought to have been precipitated by a long-standing rivalry between the two institutions. The incident emphasizes the necessity for stronger security measures and dispute resolution procedures.
As for Kimbu and ATTC, they used to be in the same zone with us. So I know that, in fact, one of the reasons why Akraka was never in the same zone with us, because in interzonals, Akraka would fight ATTC, they would fight Kimbu. So they basically took. So the schools that were causing problems was WAS, Akraka, Kimbu, ATTC. Sometimes Ebenezer, but generally Kimbu, ATTC, Accra Academy, and then WAS. In my day, I don't know about today. So I don't know whether
in our day KTI was legendary for its.
So what I'm trying to ask you guys is maybe media coverage is making this more serious than it seems, because almost like as I Google this, I'm even seeing so many SDA Senior High School, right? Again, all of this is just last year.
Yes.
5 police were called to patrol the Bekwai SDA SHS in Ashanti to help prevent possible clashes of rival students in the school on Saturday. This was after the rival students, made up of some day students and boarders, clashed violently on Friday evening, which unfortunately resulted in injuries to some of the students. According to reports, there was a misunderstanding between a day student and a boarding student on Friday afternoon, which eventually led to a fight between them, but they were separated. Later on Friday evening, some day students allegedly led some of the townsfolk to the school to ostensibly attack the boarding students. The ensuing skirmish resulted in injuries to some of the students. The school authorities quickly stepped in and called the police, who rushed to the scene and separated the feuding factions for law and order to temporarily prevail. However, on Saturday evening, the townsfolk once again stormed the school to unleash mayhem on the boarders, but unknown to them, some police personnel were providing security at the school. According to an eyewitness, the police managed to apprehend the community members who had invaded the school to attack the boarding students. Meanwhile, the paper has gathered that 5 students of the school have been invited by the police for questioning in connection with the classes, as the police are still patrolling the school for further details. Charlie, and then this is, and the more you look through, there's Osino Presby, there's TI, there's a Boku Tech closed for violent classes. I mean, this is crazy, man.
And my concern is, somebody sends a message and says 19 years ago when he or she was in secondary school, these were normal things that happened, but happened around Interco.
Yeah.
But a lot of these reports that we are reading have very little to do with Interco.
Yeah. Interco is not even happening and they are fighting.
Yeah. These are, most of them have very little. The KTI CAS one is linked with the inter-schools, but a lot of the reports that you've read are just clashes. Look at some of the reasons. Boy chase girl.
Yeah.
This one, this.
And the other one is the community class. So like students of Kalpohin SHS class with residents. Why are students fighting with residents in a town? Then there's the Boku Tech one as well. So it's gone beyond
Interco.
I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I think the larger numbers is also a problem. All right. And there's a lot of schools that can't cope with the numbers. So discipline, I mean, when I was in secondary school, right, we had at least 4 streams, SS1 to 3. Then there was also A-level people when I was in Form 1. Okay, so you stay in the school for a longer period. I feel like these days, because of the shortness of the time they stay, the values of the school cannot even be inculcated in you. You can have a student in a school that doesn't even know anything about the school, because you come in and in maybe 2 months you are back home. You're a day student, you just go for classes. Look, if a school like Presec has 24 science classes, you get me? I mean, in my time, Mr. Kote knew almost everybody. Yes. If you are the senior house master and you have 24 science classes, you have 6 or 7 art classes, 6 business classes, you don't even know who the boys are. Yeah. And if you come from home and even if they are smoking weed, you don't even know. You get me? If they are not even coming to class, how can you tell? So I just want to urge the Education Review Committee to look at the non-academic problems as well with secondary education. You shouldn't just look at pass mark and results. The issues around lack of campus accommodation for teachers, issues around building these e-blocks to accommodate more schools. So basically, you want to create more schools and decongest the schools. Yeah. Because if you have 24 science classes, go for it. Look, in my time, there were 4 science classes, E, F, G, and H. All right? Now, if you have 24 science classes, it's going to be even difficult
24?
Yes, if you go to Presec now, Form 1 science has 24 streams.
24?
I swear my father can tone akpo. I'm telling you.
Wow.
And the art is like 6.
Huh.
Then business is like 5.
24.
So if you add 24, so almost 24. So there's science 1 to science 24.
Huh.
Can you imagine? When you were in school, 1 minute.
Were you in science 24?
So and you go to, I went on the classes.
F1 24.
Some guys didn't even iron his shirt. And I was asking myself, can I even blame the school? Because they have one career counselor. If he has come and he hasn't ironed his shirt, who is even going to inspect it? You get it? And when I was there, they had 7, 8 houses. Now they are like 13 houses. And I don't know how much you have more campus teachers.
Yeah.
I don't know if campus accommodation has.
Yeah.
You get me? 24 science classes.
That's wild.
So imagine if you live at. So let's assume you are from Kumasi and you don't get boarding. So maybe they get to your residence at Medina and you are in Presec as a Form 1 student.
Yeah.
Who is even going to control you?
Yeah.
You get it? You can even go out and go and drink. Nobody knows, because in our day, if you're even going to break bounds, it's you'll be caught.
Yeah.
But right now, even
Yeah,
the urban, even the way the school has been encroached around, if they hadn't walled that school, okay, so there are a lot of schools in the middle of town where the students can easily go and mingle.
Bernard, you make a fantastic point about encroachment. I mean, in the case of Presec, it is even walled.
We've walled the whole school now.
And there are no third parties on the campus.
No.
So let me tell you about O'Reilly Senior High School then, where you have other structures in the campus. So people have their
non-school related.
People have their residences on the campus. So if you're a teacher, you're a senior housemaster, you see someone walking on your campus,
You don't know whether it's a student or
what
not.
are you going to tell the person? Because for some point, it was a thoroughfare. People drive through the school one side and come out the other side. So recently when I went to the campus, there was a...
Is it the one at Teshi?
Yes, Opoigono. There was the launch of the 100th or centenary anniversary, and I saw some guys on the campus chatting the girls, and I was like,
Who are these
you a student? He said no.
So what are you doing here?
He said, oh, he came to see his friend. And
In the school?
The way I saw him...
But is there a senior housemaster?
Bernard, how many teachers do you have? And the students outnumber the teachers, and you don't have proper bungalows for the teachers. Most of them are coming from outside.
So when there's no class in the evening, you can even go out.
Do you understand? Because the wall is also like at my hip. I can just scale over it easily. So the neighborhood and some of the people, business people, are building hostels around the schools. And this is not university level. This is secondary school. So if you have a hostel where all kinds of people can go and rent that space, and there are teenagers also there, and some of them, it's not even like it's same sex, it's mixed.
Oh, Lord.
Like you have a recipe for disaster.
And this is a secondary school in
Secondary
Accra.
school.
I'm told that this challenge of schools in the middle of town is actually a problem, because see, when a school is isolated, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
So if you go to St. Peter's, it's difficult to come out.
Yeah.
It's in Kwetia. You are Prempeh is also nicely walled. But even that, when you are in town, okay, so I'm told that, for example, this Kalpohin Senior High School is also in the middle of town. Okay, so the interactions between the students and the non-students can be very, very frequent. Okay, so when we come back from this break, we will speak to the educational authorities on what they are doing or what their plans are for our secondary schools in the face of these. You know, if you hadn't pointed it, I wouldn't have known that this was getting that serious.
And they need to look at it.
I wouldn't have known that was this serious. Caleb, read some comments for us on
Sure.
this rather troubling trend of violent clashes in our senior high schools.
Right.
On our WhatsApp number is 054-998-6996.
Hello, Bernard. Why is no one telling us about the classmates who allowed themselves to be flogged with a cutlass? What was the reason for the flogging? You asked. You didn't add your name. Bernard and team, last year it was Christian Methodist and secondary school and a mom from secondary school. Okay, I don't think boarding houses have outlived their usefulness. We should promote more decent behavior, the teaching of decent behavior in schools. Those days, boarding schools were the place to learn essential skills like ironing, laying your bed, properly washing your clothes, etc., etc. There is no control on student behavior simply because the system of punishing students when they err has been halted. They are no longer afraid of teachers, and teenagers will definitely do things they know don't conform to societal standards. Dennis from Medina sent that through.
Let's get some more insights on this with Kofi Asare, who's the executive director of the Africa Education Watch, a leading education think tank. He is also one of the members of a committee set up to plan for a national dialogue on education. Other members include Professor G.T. Oduro and Professor Goski Alabi, Rosemary Bonsu, Smile Zichi, Dr. Samuel Oku, Stephen Owusu, and Inusa Shiraz. So Kofi Asare will talk to us first and foremost about what we've seen to be a worrying trend of violent clashes within secondary schools and also intra-secondary schools. So Kofi, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Bernard. Good morning to your panel and then your cherished audience.
So I didn't realize it was that rampant until Godfred mentioned it, but as we went through the news, we realized that probably every other month there is a report from a secondary school about violence, either between students in the school or between students in the school and another school, or students in the school and residents. You guys have been tracking these things. How serious is this problem?
Yeah, there is an issue of domestic violence in our school, and then sometimes it escalates to the level of battery and criminal, very, very criminal conduct. It is not new, I must admit. The boarding system has its attendant delinquencies, juvenile delinquencies and other deviant behavior, which students come to school and learn from others through peer engagement, and then also which they become hardened in school because of the kind of disciplinary regime being exacted, or they become immune, or due to the impunity of the disciplinary regime. And so all these things that you see are normally symptoms of an ineffective sanctions regime, or an ineffective guidance and counseling regime within our schools, supposed to help in shaping behaviors, and also a symptom of what has been shipped from the house to schools by way of delinquent behavior, negatively boisterous behavior, and other social behaviors that are not supportive of the essence of education. It is a responsibility of all, because it starts from the house, but because our secondary education system is heavily boardingized, these incidents will normally be reported in the boarding school. But again, the boarding school system is supposed to have a mechanism for preventing the development of such behaviors, and if you like, for also reforming, reforming people who are exposed to this level of, misbehavior. But unfortunately, we had a reform of our secondary school system's disciplinary code, together with our basic school system disciplinary code, about 7 years ago. If you talk to the teachers in charge of our secondary schools, they will tell you that they have checked out. They have checked out because what they believe it takes to prevent the occurrence or to manage behaviors or regulate behaviors so as not to get to the level of such excesses, one of which or six of which we are discussing today, has been taken away from them, and that they are unable to discipline the students. So they only watch them, and then they do whatever they like. At the end of the month, they take their salary.
So the teachers have checked out.
Oh, they checked out long. Yeah, many of them have checked out, and the teachers themselves have said this on various platforms. There's another side where some teachers, frustrated by the growing indiscipline, also meet indiscipline with indiscipline. So you have reports of some schools where school authorities use violence, battery, to address indiscipline. And all these two scenarios invariably leads to increasing radicalization of the young ones. And so that is the situation we find ourselves now in our schools. The positive discipline policy, like any other policy, has suffered a high level of acceptance by those who are supposed to adopt it. That is the teachers. And because of that, what is supposed to positively manage discipline in our schools has rather been, on one breath, has actually created the situation where teachers have checked out because they are used to only exercising discipline through, among others, corporal punishment. And then also others have, out of frustration, become more radicalized because of the growing levels of impunity among our student body, because of the understanding that they will not be punished physically. I mean, they will not be subjected to corporal punishment when they misbehave. So that's the situation in our schools.
So what you've described is clear for boarding schools, but I'm getting reports that this lawlessness is also getting more rampant among day students. So, for example, here's a message from a lady who's a tutor in a school in Tema. She says that the clashes have become very rampant and happens daily. In the Tema enclave, for instance, Tema Technical have been attacking all the high schools in the area on a daily basis. Tema Technical is located in Community 7. They have the boys closed from school and distribute themselves to other schools, Olams, Chemu, Medas, Temasco, and Tema Presec in different. So this is a school in Community 7. And they distribute themselves to schools in Community 1, 4, 5, and 12. And they just go and attack students. So these are their students who do this kind of thing. So beyond the border issues, could it be also that because there are more numbers in the schools and there are more day students, it poses a different kind of disciplinary challenge?
I don't think so, because there are fewer day students, proportionally today, than in 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were having about 20% of our students being day students, about 25%. Now, it's about 80% of them are boarders, if not 85. So we have increasingly modernized our system rather. But I would say that, and I began by saying that what we are discussing is something that starts from the household. Okay, the child spends more time in the house than in school. We are talking about day students. So this radicalization starts from the community. It starts from the community, but the schools have a responsibility to sanction whenever they occur. Whether if your students involved in a brawl or a brawl in another school, once it is related to school, they must be sanctioned by the school. I'm not too sure how effective the sanctions regime has been, and so where the sanction regime is not too punitive, many instances it happens and the student is only transferred to another school. So that is one, and I believe that that's not biting enough, because if you transfer Kofi Asai from school A to school B to go and repeat the same thing there, then you are virtually inconveniencing the students in school B. But there's a conversation we must have. Marrying strict, punitive, proper carrots and sticks, regime in our schools with human rights. Because again, if you want to dismiss, then you come into interface with human rights, the right to education, and why not to truncate one's right to education? And so the two are very, very important in having a sanction regime that really works and deters. But in all, I think that the preventive approach is where we've gotten it quite wrong than the reactionary approach. If parents were upfront, much more proactive in instilling discipline and grooming their children in a manner that they do not become exposed or they do not become radicalized, I think that such behaviors wouldn't have been taken to school in the first place. And so I place at the doorstep of parents a bigger chunk of this responsibility to ensure ensure that our children are groomed, not in violence, or not to be participants in this radicalization of our youth. But I will continue to say that after implementing the positive discipline policy for about 7 years, Edward called for a review of the policy, I think 2 years ago, when the teachers said that they are checked out. So whatever happens, they teach, and then they take your salary, and then you go. Because if you pass the person, you will be sanctioned. That is the policy, and the policy must be respected. Fine. The policy says that no corporal punishment, but there are other sanctions regimes that the policy recommends. Teachers are saying that those recommendations do not work. They do not deter in any way, deviant behavior, or negative behavior, violent behavior, etc. So there must be a review of the policy. I believe that there must be a review of the policy. But I'm not saying that we should reintroduce corporal punishment. What I'm saying is that the policy works for 7 years. It's still a long time enough to review it and assess its level of effectiveness and efficiency. And especially where it has suffered a very, very, very high level of inertia or low level of acceptance by the key stakeholders, those who are supposed to be the implementers of that policy, teachers. So I once again call for a review of the positive discipline policy to see how we can strengthen its effectiveness, especially in relation to enforcing the indiscipline we see now. Enforcing proper behavior to prevent the indiscipline we see in our schools.
Finally, you are on the committee, 8-member committee the president has appointed to organize the National Education Forum. What is your understanding of your terms of reference?
Well, I think our mandate is simply to mobilize opinions, develop an action plan on how to implement the opinions, and then submit same to the government. It's as simple as that. And so our work is to create a platform, mobilize opinions from citizens, and then develop an action plan on how to operationalize the opinions into policy, and submit an operational plan, a policy framework to the government for implementation.
And this is for all levels of education?
Yes, it is. The focus is on the education sector.
And what time frame are you working with?
We have 2 weeks to submit our plan for the conference. And then after the conference, I think we have 3 weeks to submit the framework, an action plan for operationalizing the opinions that will be mobilized during the forum. And so I say, maximum 2 months, we should have completed our work and submitted our report to His Excellency. So
it means you already started work?
We will be inaugurated today. But I must admit that in one way or the other, Africa Education Watch, we have a program that supports political parties to transition their manifestos to policies, their manifesto promises to policies. And we launched one last year. So as part of the program, we are supporting the NDC to transition its manifesto promises, 140 of them, to policies. So I must say that within that context of technical assistance to the Ministry of Education, we are already doing one or two things around there. But the committee is a formalized way to convene and then mobilize opinions and then make recommendations, the roadmap for implementing them, and submit them to the government for consideration and implementation. For me, the most important thing is the level of importance the government attaches to the reports of the forum. For me, that's the most important thing, and that's for me, that is where the focus of all citizens and media, everybody should be. If we are able to mobilize opinion from citizens far and wide, how to progress our education system, how to resolve complex issues that have been there with our education system for some time, and we are able to make presentations to government for consideration. The most important thing should be the extent to which our government adapts the implementations and implements them effectively to ensure that the challenges are once and for all, resolved or mitigated. So for me, that should be the focus.
All right. We wish you well in your work. Thank you for talking to us. Kofi Asare, Africa Education Watch, proposing that we have a review of the positive punishment policy, not to cancel it, but a review of it. And then he's also talking about what they will be doing at the National Education Forum that they are organizing. It's 8:30, City Breakfast Show. Read a few more comments on education. Then I will give you an update from the Sunyang issue, where a football fan was killed at a match, and then some latest updates as well from the museum. All right, so here are some more comments.
Please don't forget ATTC versus Emmet versus Nima Youth. These were the 90s, and these were in the 90s and 2000s. Aaron from Bodras is sent that through. Good morning, Bernard. I remember in those days you would only see this during intercall, when one school teases another after losing, or through JAMA. Okay, Bernard, about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a clash between Holy Trinity Cathedral Senior High School and Accra Senior High students, culminating in Accra High students storming the cathedral and destroying a digital display unit in front of the cathedral. Adolf from New Guawe Center.
So Hotcast versus Accra High.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Accra High is in the news.
For this.
In my time, Accra High was a very quiet school. I'm surprised that they... And Kofi is talking about the fact that 80% of students are boarders. Because there's a TTA person who said to me that a lot of the law lessons done by day students. So the jury is still out on whether it's a boarding issue or a day student. Because if students can leave a school in Tema and spread themselves to attack other schools, that's obviously day students.
Into a gang.
Yeah.
Also, are there more boys' schools engaged in this compared to girls' school or mixed schools?
It's boys and mixed more. I don't think single-sex girls' schools are involved in this, because this story about students of
the intra.
Yeah, it's a Tema Technical.
Yeah.
It's a Tema Technical in Community 7.
Yes.
Boys close from school, distribute themselves into. They go and attack Olam Community 1, Chemu Community 4, Medas Community 11, Temaso Community 5, and Prese Community 12.
Then
the person says this has to be addressed as early as possible before it escalates, because of these clashes in the zone, sporting activities have been affected to the extent that last year Greater Accra Super Zoo was held at Adan SHS without students. Ordinarily, this would have taken place at Elwak Sports Stadium. I'll be very grateful if you could reach out to the Tema Metro Education Directorate to find out what they are doing about the clashes, especially provoked by the boys from Tema Tech. Thank you. Now, the reason I'm concerned is we are trying to do NISAC.
Yes.
To bring sports together, to bring students come and compete.
Yeah.
Now, this person is telling me that because of this, the intercall is not even happening in a normal way.
Yes.
So the fans can't even get to even enjoy the running. So what is going on here?
So they need to figure it out. What is quite obvious is a lot of people have said this is not new. Everybody can make mention of an incident when they were in school during the period.
I think this is new.
But I'm getting to the point I'm about to make. But I don't recall during my time students waking up and sharpening cutlasses
to go and to do an organized fight
as part of our daily activities. Nobody had that time in Pempe College. The worst we would do is go and find Farouk Mahama and say that you are the strongest person, so you go and lead us. If they beat us, we run away.
But not organized, staged.
No. But these days, these kids basically make weapons. There was a video the other time after the Margaret Mary incident, for instance. There was a video, it was on TikTok, of the students basically sharpening their cutlasses, making all kinds of implements and saying, okay, we are going to school with this one. They have ways of putting the machetes in their school shorts and moving around with it. So there seems to have been a shift towards a more violent confrontation on a very regular basis outside of just sporting rivalries, because most of these things were born out of sporting rivalries. Once in a while it will be over a girl, but let's admit that but
teenage boys are not very sensible.
But these reports that we are hearing is like some of these schools basically have turned into training grounds for hoodlums. And Kofi's breakdown doesn't give me any consolation, because he says teachers have checked out. And it's true, because I'm aware some of the teachers have been threatened by some of these students with their machetes and whatever it is that they carry out. Because you if you say you're going to discipline a student, even if you don't, it's not corporal punishment, and you say you write notes, or you go and face the wall in the corner. By the time school is done and you are going home, 3 or 4 boys will meet you in some corner and slap you left, right, center.
But how come those things were not happening in our time, that you go and even dare to beat a teacher?
I'm saying that there seems to have been a shift towards a more violent approach, a more you can't control us approach. I don't know where it has emanated from, but definitely the system has been diluted. We are not proud of what the system was back then. We shouldn't be proud of what it has become now.
Let's read some more comments, Caleb.
Right. Good morning, Bernard. With the issue of clashes in senior high schools, I can say there is no longer discipline. GES has directed that students should not be punished. In view of that, when students misbehave, all the teachers do is fold their hands and watch them or walk away, and then discipline is rising with speed. When I was in school some 15 years ago, you would be punished or even given a portion of acreage or land to weed, so you wouldn't involve yourself in discipline acts. But now most of the schools have mowers doing the work for them.
Can you imagine?
Lawrence from Medina.
So they can't even weed with cutlass anymore.
Yeah. Bernard, good morning. Don't be surprised about these clashes. Look at what is happening in Parliament. Law enforcers destroying properties and fighting each other. They are learning from what their elders are doing.
Such a bad
Me
example.
from Jessica.
Oh,
good
Lord.
morning, CBS.
Morning.
Hope you're all doing well. Please, this senior high school fight is generational, and most of them are old students who involve themselves in it, especially ATTC. King inside King from Achimota send that through.
Okay.
Bernard and team, clashes between students from different schools is nothing new. I finished SSS 19 years ago, and there was always fights during intercore which damaged vehicles and injured many students as well as teachers. But the policies around free SHS have made it extremely difficult for a student to be sacked or repeated in class. The students now feel they are untouchable and tend to misbehave without fear. Heads must be empowered to bring back discipline by dismissing unruly students without the bottlenecks. It will bring back some sanity in our schools. Concerned senior high school headmaster.
I noticed a lot of comments on this.
Send that
People
through.
have experience to share. If you can read a few more for
Good
me.
morning, Bernard and team. This indiscipline has been ongoing for years now. Students are working with knives and weapons to school on a daily basis. In the past, rivalry and rise to superiority was done through sports. Now it's physical. Stabbing has become the norm of the day. Worst of all, students even come to school high on weed. This has happened on the campuses of my former SHS, and when you speak to the students, they tell you it's normal. Our educational system is on a time bomb. Rather than training scholars for the future, it looks like we are training fighters or criminals into our society. Ellie from Adenta sent through.
Wow.
But this one borders O'Reilly Senior High School.
Your school.
He says, yes, I am a taxi driver within the Okweghana enclave. Bernard, O'Reilly SHS students are only students in the day. In the evening when school closes, it's a different world.
So are you saying that your school is helpless to stop this? Because the school was already moved.
Yes.
Is it a private or a public school now?
It's still a public school.
Nah, something has to be done. Old students need to get together to solve this problem. Yeah. Let's read more. Bernard, you see, it all becomes because of human rights. So these days, when you misbehave, senior house masters will call you to your office and give you 3 lashes on weed, or you weed. So you see the difference. Most of us chose not to do such, so we wouldn't involve ourselves in any indiscipline. But now the young ones do anything they want. This is Sonny in Berlin.
Yeah.
These classes didn't start yesterday. In 1976, there was a class between Koforidua Sectec and New Jasco, because the New Jasco students' problem was that the sector people were taking their girls. It's the discipline that has to be raised because of the numbers. This is quick. Cool. Oh Lord. He says when the teacher who is the only person to correct this kind of behavior has his power and authority taken away, the only thing I will do is to sit aloof and watch. I'm a teacher myself, corroborating Kofi Asari's point.